In this week's Rambly episode, imagine you're walking around the Swedish landscape. It's super early in the morning, it's dawn, and you can see the fog dancing in the distance. Suddenly, it's almost as if the fog turns into beautiful ladies dancing in a circle. They see you and they beckon you to come dance with them. Their song sounds like birds chirping and you can't resist. But these are no ordinary fairies. You have just doomed yourself to madness and death. And there's just no getting out of that one. This is today's episode. Hi and welcome to another video here on my channel Morbid History, where I once a week tell some rambly information either of a historical true crime case, some Scandinavian folklore, even though I'm going to branch out into world folklore soon, and true crime. And also sometimes Norse mythology. So if you enjoy stuff like that, please subscribe, like, comment, and yeah, welcome! If you're a returning subscriber, Pilvi loves you. And with that, let's get straight into today's folklore video. So today we're going through these topics. What were they? Where could you find them? Who would turn into an Älvor? Causes of madness and disease. Protection. Shouting Lars encounter with Älvorna. Sir Olaf and his meeting with the Fairy King. And lastly, a true case taken to court in the 1600s. Okay, so today we're talking about fairies. Swedish folklore fairies. They were pretty prevalent during the Middle Ages and the 1700s thereabouts, and they had nothing in common with the kinds of magical fairies that we see today in modern stories. I don't even think they have a common history, really. But they were seen as these small, ethereal creatures with long, beautiful hair, white gowns, dancing around in meadows and all that, of course. We think that they were a continuation from the elves of Norse mythology. There's a bit of a back and forth there, because like in the early ages of Älvor, they could be either gender, but then somehow they turned into mostly female, and the males were called elves. But they use it kinda interchangeably in stories. But what we can say is that they were usually female and extremely dangerous, life-threatening, small, beautiful creatures that you should stay away from at any cost. Meeting one of these creatures were a sure sign of you to go completely hecking mad, or just get sick and heckin' super die. You would start hallucinating, you would start what we were called fever hallucinations and stuff like that, you know. They could also live in wells, so it was very, very important that you boil the water from your well if you thought that you had fairies down there. Because otherwise, again, you'd get sick, mad, or die. There were nothing good about these killing machines. These beautiful killing machines. So, where did people think that the Älvor originated? Where did they come from? Like most creatures in Swedish folklore, sometimes they're just there. Like the skogsrot. It doesn't really have like an origin story or anything like that I know of, at least. But then we have others like kyrkogrim, who were either an animal or a human sacrificed at the church and then it came up as a kyrkogrim, and Älvor were one of those creatures. You thought that if you lived a sinful life, especially one that had to do with promiscuous and sensual behavior, like if you would be the kind of person who danced sensually at the barn balls or whatever, and this could lead to you having relations with someone who wasn't your husband, that could turn you into an Älva once you got cancelled. So yeah, they were, as many folklore creatures, a little pointy finger at you to stay on your lane and don't be sinful, because you will come alive as a thoroughly beautiful white-haired Älva.
Damn, that sounds terrible. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah. That's that. Where did the Älvor live? Usually in the forest somewhere underground, in large meadows underground, or in water, because Älvor were very much drawn to any kind of water. So much so that people were scared to leave like a carafe with water or a glass of water at home without a lid, so they would place like a plate over it, so that the Älvor wouldn't come into them and poison the water. Makes sense. Älvor were very much seen as disease bringers. Like I said, there was nothing good with these Swedish Älvor. They were terrible. They wanted death and disease on everyone. So if they didn't spread the disease through any water that you drank, they would blow on you when they were invisible. And it would be called that you got du fick Älva, or you got the fairy. But this could easily be fixed by counteracting and blowing on yourself with a blåsbälg. I don't know the English word, but it looks like this. If you blew with one of those really hard on yourself, you counteracted the fairy breath that had fallen upon you and made you sick. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the beautiful views of a morning mist dancing over a meadow. This was construed by a lot of Scandis as Älvor dancing. It's easily seen how you could imagine that, like their flowing dresses and white hair dancing in a ring. And when they were done, the sun was up, you could see the Älvring, or the fairy ring, as I know is a thing in other cultures too. These fairy rings could, of course, also bring upon death and sickness in different ways. If you slept in one, that was a sure sign that you would either go sick or go completely mad. If you would happen to pee into one of them without noticing, your bladder would swell and you would get an infection and most probably die. So don't do that. Other ways to protect yourself would be to bring them offerings. The easiest way would be to throw a gold coin over your left shoulder into any water that you could find, a well, a lake, or whatever, and hope for the best. Another would be to shave off some gold from a wedding ring and put it in milk and throw that into any piece of water around you. And that would get you in the good graces of these crazy elves. Elves, I can't stop saying elves. Älvor, these crazy Älvor. But of course, the main gist of these Älvor was that they were extremely beautiful, extremely seductive, and they wanted nothing else but to have fun with you. And sorry to say, but their stories of it going kinda either way, even if you did or didn't, it could go bad, could go very bad. One story is about a man called Lars, however, I actually need to find. Well, we call him Shouting Lars then. Shouting Lars. He was a normal man, as normal as any man during the olden times, and he had a little cottage. As you did, you had a cottage. And one day he fell asleep by a tree and woke up at dawn next to a meadow. He woke up from beautiful singing, and the singing sounded like bird songs. And he noticed that it was a bunch of very petite, blonde-haired women in white, flowy dresses dancing in a circle. Their speech sounded like birds chirping, and he could not control himself. They seductively pulled him into the ring, and he danced with them there for a few hours and did other things. He should not have done that. He went home again, and he was never the same. All he could hear were the sounds of these Älvor singing in his ears. And he was screaming that he could only hear birds chirping and birds singing, and he couldn't find any peace. So one day he just basically ran off and was never seen again. This is a very common story. Like, Shoot Lars is not the only one. It was well known that if you said yes to the dances with these Älvor, you would come out of it mad. Like, totally bonkers. Dancing with Älvorna or frolicking with them in the forest, in the waters, in the meadows, it was a way somehow to explain why some people suddenly turned mad. Like, today we know that a lot of psychological issues, they present sometimes quite suddenly in an adult age. But of course, during these days, you didn't have the medical knowledge of this, so they had to explain it in some other way. And Älvor was an easy way to do that. They had taken away your sanity, and you would never ever be the same again. So of course, one of the ways to protect yourself was to always say no to dancing with the Älvor. But now I'm gonna read you a little poem in Swedish, and I'm gonna put the translation here, about a man. This is actually a medieval ballad from Sweden, and this is one of the times where saying no actually did not turn out too great. Herr Olof och älvorna. Herr Olof rider och motte, dive dagg faller rim. Ljuse dagen honom tyckte. Herr Olof kommer hem när skogen görs lövegrön. Herr Olof rider för berget, finner en dans med älvor. Där dansar älv och älvemåg, älvekungens dotter med utslaget hår. Älvekungens dotter räckte hand från sig. Kom hit, herr Olof, tråd dans med mig. Intet tråde jag dans med dig, min fästemö har det förbjudit mig. Intet jag vill, ej heller jag må, imorgon skall mitt bröllop stå. Vill du intet tråda dansen med mig, en olycka skall jag ställa på dig. Herr Olof snodde sin häst omkring, sjukdom och sot följde honom hem. Herr Olof red i sin moders gård, ute hans moder för honom står. Var välkommen, kär sonen min, viäst du så blek i blommekind. Min fåla var snabb och jag var sen, jag stötte mig mot en ekegren. Min käre syster bädda min säng, min käre broder hälla hästen i äng. Min käre moder borsta mitt hår, min käre fader gör mig en bår. Min käre son, du säger så, imorgon ska ditt bröllop stå. Stånde nu när det stånda vill, driver dagg faller rim. Aldrig kommer jag till min fästmö min, herr Olof kommer hem när skogen görs lövegrön. So yeah, this was a medieval ballad about a knight called Olaf who said no to his he said no to the advances of the fairy king's daughter, and she was so upset that she made him so ill that he died before his wedding day. Now to some real history that the folklore of the Älvor made to put their mark into real life. During the 16 to 1700s, it was actually not very uncommon for people to be executed, put to cancellation, because they admitted to having intercourse with either a Älva or any kind of nature creature, folklore, madam or man. Because he was seen as a front to God, of course. So if they said that they did it, that's no good. You die. But now we go back to Småland. I don't know why. We always come back to Småland, where I grew up. Either way, in Småland, a village called Sävsjön, lived a girl called Kerstin Svensdotter in 1656. She told everyone who wanted to hear that she had become the lover of the fairy king out in the woods nearby. She would have what we today would call epileptic fits. And during these fits, she would say that she gave birth to the Elf King's children. The Elf King would, after fits, come into her little cottage and take the babies and return them into the woods into his kingdom. Kerstin became madder and madder. She got 7 kids with this fairy king, and she would take to running into the woods, screaming for her children, trying to find them. And after a while, they had to have a ting about it. And ting during these days were like the local court system. But she was actually spared the death penalty because the court decided that she had been fooled and enticed by the devil against her own will. So basically they just found her mad because of the devil, which wasn't always the case. There's many cases of them actually going through with the death sentence in these cases. Those were wild times. Hi everyone, this is me the day after. I ran out of time yesterday to film an outro, so yeah, I'll just do it the day after. This is me while editing. Hope you really enjoyed the video, the rambly little video. Let me know if anything was extra interesting down below. You know I love your comments. Number 1, please comment and like, and if you don't already, please subscribe, share, put the notification bell. All of that helps with the algorithm and you'll know next time I upload. Below me you can find all these things. Ways to support the tiny hermit. Thanks for the consideration. And giant thanks to my beautiful patrons. There will be lots of fun vlogs the weeks coming up because we're going on a little Sweden road trip. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy that. Hop on over to my Patreon if you want to see more. Mwah! Giant hugs, kisses, and I'll see you next week.